They came for my flag before sunrise. 3 men in black polos, a hacksaw in the rain, pretending to be law enforcement. 60 seconds later, 2 were on their knees. 1 was face down on my porch, and the only thing still standing was the flag they came to steal. That's how quiet Maple Creek stopped being quiet. When we moved here, my wife Claire called it a fresh start. White fences, perfect lawns, sprinklers that clicked in rhythm like a metronome for suburbia. She found the place on one of those top 10 peaceful neighborhoods blogs. After 20 years in Delta Force, I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I could learn to sleep without a rifle leaning on the wall. I was wrong. There's a kind of silence that feels wrong to a soldier, the kind that presses against your eardrums, waiting for something to detonate. Maple Creek had that silence from day one. The first week, everything looked perfect. Neighbors waved, dogs barked on schedule. Someone even dropped off banana bread with a printed copy of the HOA guidelines. Rules for mailbox color, grass-length flag size. I smiled, thanked her, and thought, people here have rules for everything but common sense. The flag went up on the second morning, a flag my wife had sewn from my old combat uniform. Olive drab frayed at the edges with a small brass plaque beneath it. In honor of Corporal Eli Price, 75th Ranger Regiment, June 17, 2009. He was 23 from Nebraska, and he took a bullet meant for me. That flag wasn't decoration, it was a gravestone that could still move in the wind. 3 days later came the first knock. No, not a knock, more like a drill instructor pounding cadence on my door. I opened it slow, coffee in hand. 3 men stood there, black polos with a red HOA security patch stitched crooked on the chest. Their leader was tall, puffed up mirrored shades too small for his face. "You Jack Ryder," he barked. "Got a problem with your flag. Too big. Violates regulation dimensions. 24 hours to take it down." I didn't blink, just set my mug on the rail and said, "That plaque stays. The flag stays." He smirked, eyes flicking to the memorial plate. "We like to keep the neighborhood uniform. No self-made memorials cluttering up the view." That line hit harder than any punch. Claire stood behind me, hand on the doorframe. I heard her breath catch, saw the anger build behind her eyes, but she said nothing. We both knew people like him feed on reaction. I let him finish his speech, then said quietly, "Try it." They left, boots thudding like a retreat. The smell of cheap cologne hung in the air long after they were gone. By dinner, Claire had her laptop open, reading glasses low on her nose, surrounded by HOA pamphlets and printouts like evidence. Old habits die hard. She'd been an investigative reporter in Austin before I met her. "Brent Coleman," she said, tapping the screen. "Head of Maple Creek Security Committee, used to be military police. Discharged for misconduct 12 years ago. No details." "Figures," I muttered. And his company, Sentinel Protective Services, had its license suspended last spring. No insurance, improper use of restraints. Basically a rent-a-cop outfit with shiny patches. So much for peace. That night, an SUV with tinted windows circled our block twice. The next morning, my doorbell camera was tilted off-center, and the memory card showed a 2-hour gap at midnight. Then came the note folded, no envelope, block letters. "Take the flag down, or the next knock won't be polite." I should have called the cops, but 20 years of missions taught me one thing: the moment that matters always happens before backup arrives. Claire and I decided to watch and document. We weren't running. A few houses down lived Walter Briggs' Vietnam vet lean as a fence post walked with a cane. One evening I stopped by his porch. He looked up from whittling a block of cedar and said, "That's your uniform she used to make that flag." "Yeah. And the plaque's for a friend who didn't make it back." He nodded. "Good woman. Most folks here don't understand the weight of cloth like that." When I mentioned Brent Coleman, Walter's mouth tightened. He's the kind who walks like the ground owes him an apology. I've heard his voice before behind clipboards, badges, or microphones. Watch that one. We shook hands. Before I left, he said, "Quiet streets are the ones you watch closest." He was right. The next night that SUV came crawling again. Slow, deliberate headlight sweeping across my porch like a searchlight. I sat there, coffee cooling, hand resting on the armrest like it was a rifle stock. Claire stood behind the screen door, phone in hand. We didn't move. We just watched them test the fence. Then came the rain. At 5 a.m., The security monitor glowed blue in the den. 3 shapes in the drizzle-black polos plastered to their shoulders. Brent Coleman up front, a hacksaw flashing in one man's hand. Another pulled on gloves. They looked less like enforcers and more like burglars pretending to be brave. I didn't call the police. I just set my mug down, pulled on a jacket, and laced up old sneakers. Claire stirred. "Jack." "Go back to bed," I whispered. Her eyes shifted to the monitor. "They're on the porch." "Yeah," I said. "Time to remind them what a boundary looks like." She stayed by the screen door phone in her hand. The rain drummed steady. When I stepped outside, the boards creaked just once. They didn't hear me until I was 5 feet away. "Morning," I said. Brent spun, startled. "You were told." "I heard you," I cut in. "You're early. The sun's not up." The wiry one lifted the hacksaw. "Figured we'd save you the trouble." I looked at the plaque under the flag, at Eli's name catching the porch light, and felt something old and familiar click into place, a calm sharper than fear. "I'll give you one more chance," I said. "Step away." Brent laughed. "You threatening HOA security, old man?" "No," I said. "I'm giving you a choice." Then everything slowed, the rain, the air, my heartbeat. The wiry guy swung first, more show than strike. I stepped aside, redirected his wrist, felt the teeth of the saw scrape across my knuckles as I parried. His momentum carried him forward. My elbow met his sternum. He folded with a grunt. The second man lunged from the right. I pivoted, used his weight, guided him down onto the slick boards. He hit hard, more confused than hurt. The hacksaw clattered across the porch and into the yard. Brent reached for his belt, pepper spray glinting. "Don't," I said. He did anyway. I caught his wrist, twisted, pinned the can against his own thigh. "Stop," I warned. He tried to muscle through. I shifted simple joint lock, his body turned with it, knees slipping on wet wood. The first man gasped, trying to stand. I pressed a palm between his shoulder and jaw, firm, controlled. "Stay down." He stayed. Brent lunged again, desperate. I moved with him, shoulder threw him over the slick plank. He hit flat the air, leaving him in a single rough gasp. I knelt, knee across his ribs, weight, centered enough to hold, not to break. Rain hammered the porch light like a clock ticking. Brent sputtered, "This is HOA authority." This I said, leaning close as my porch. From the doorway, Claire's voice, steady, clear. "Officers are 2 blocks out." The men froze. I told them, "Hands where I can see them." They raised them, palms, shining with rainwater. Just like that, the minute ended. By the time the patrol car pulled up, my adrenaline had already leveled out. Brent knelt in the rain, his partners silent. The older officer glanced at the plaque, then at me. "You want to tell me what happened, Mr. Ryder?" They tried to remove the flag and memorial. I stopped them. Everyone's breathing. Claire held up her phone, still recording. The wiry man mumbled something about following orders. The sergeant shut him down with a look. Across the street, blinds twitched. A teenager live-streamed the scene. I didn't care. Let them see what HOA intimidation looks like when it meets an actual line in the sand. The cops took statements, cuffed Brent and his crew, loaded them into the cruiser. As the blue lights faded down the street, I felt the porch finally exhale. The flag hung heavy with rain, but unbowed plaque gleaming under the light. When I gave my formal report later, I kept it short. No heroics, no flourishes. They came for the flag. I asked them to leave. They didn't. That was all. That. 2 days later, the HOA held an emergency meeting. The community center was packed. Neighbors I'd never spoken to standing shoulder to shoulder, phones in hand, faces tight with embarrassment and fury. I didn't plan to speak, but when my name was called, I stood. The plaque stays. The flag stays. That's all I've got. Claire followed, reading the bylaws out loud, the section about reasonable display of national flags. Her voice didn't shake once. Then Walter took the mic cane, tapping the tile. "Some things you measure with rulers," he said. "Some things you measure with what they cost." The vote wasn't close. 2 board members resigned. Brent was removed permanently. The special security fee they'd been pushing vanished from the agenda. When the meeting ended, people shook my hand like I'd done something heroic. I hadn't. I'd just drawn a line and held it. That night I stood on the porch again. The air smelled of wet cedar. The flag swayed gently, water dripping from its stitched edges. Claire came beside me, silent. For the first time in a long time, the quiet didn't feel wrong. It felt earned. I touched the plaque, the brass cool under my thumb, and whispered to Eli's name. "Some peace you find. some peace you fight for. The only one that lasts is the kind you're willing to keep.